Hi friends, welcome back to Ouroboros Tarot. Today's pick a card reading is an energetic check-in reading for those of you who are in no contact with your person. And how we're going to do it is we're going to be looking into how they are remembering and reflecting on themselves having shown up in this connection, how they're remembering you, how they're feeling about this no contact and separation, how they're feeling about you. We'll get some channeled messages. We'll also pull some shadow work cards to see what it is that they're realizing about themselves because of this connection. And we'll also get into what it is that they're hoping is going to come from this connection, or what it is that they're hoping for in the future for this connection. And of course, we'll get advice. So I have three piles for you to choose from today, pile 1, 2, and 3. Go ahead and pause this video if you need to. Take as much time as you need to find the pile that sits right with your energy as well as with your person's, and I will see you in a minute. Hello, pile 1. So today's pick a card reading is looking into an energetic check-in for the person you are in no contact with. And to start, these cards here are indicative of how the person on your mind is currently remembering themselves in terms of this connection, how they're looking back on how they acted, how they showed up. And for that, we have the water chevrotain. The keyword is anomaly. We also have wolf. And we have slave. The light attribute is surrendering your power of choice to the divine with complete trust. And the shadow attribute is giving your willpower to an external authority out of fear of making your own choices. And then these cards here represent how they are currently feeling about this separation, about this no contact. And for that, we have the ocean. We also have forgiveness. We have number 10, unfinished symphony. Number 49, observer. Number 36, come to the edge, and we have discovery. And then when it comes to how they are remembering you currently, we have Luna Moth, and the keyword is transient. We also have the hyena, and we have gossip. The light attributes are awakens consideration for the feelings of others and honoring trust. And then we'll get into these oracles later, so I'm going to go ahead and put those to the side. Okay, so how is your person currently remembering themselves, looking back on themselves? It feels like there is conflict, like this person seems kind of paradoxical in a lot of ways. The water chevrotain is definitely an animal that goes against the flow of what society says. So this person could have been somebody who perhaps was non-committal, or perhaps was more so polyamorous, or didn't necessarily want to abide by just the unspoken rules of society or expectations of society. But I think it's interesting because at the same time we have the wolf here, which is a very family-oriented type of energy. The wolf is a very loyal type of energy. And also the wolf can be an animal that places the same level of expectations that it has on itself onto those around it, which can cause rifts in connections. And I kind of feel like this person at the time the two of you were in connection was kind of at conflict or at odds with themselves in terms of perhaps wanting to be loyal, but at the same time wanting to maintain their autonomy, their freedom, or perhaps not have to have commitments that they would have to honor. And I sense that this person was stubborn in a lot of ways. I think with the slave here, the biggest message that's coming through for me is that this is somebody who perhaps in the shadow attributes of giving your willpower to an external authority out of fear of making your own choices, I kind of get the feeling that this person may have allowed this connection to fizzle out or end in some sort of way, because they didn't necessarily know what the right course of action was, or because they felt overwhelmed by having to step up to the plate and make a decision for themselves. And so rather than making a decision, they chose to remain inactive, which of course in and of itself is a decision. But they feel as though they're a slave to that inability to stand up against their own stubbornness. There's just a willfulness here that I'm sensing with this person. When they look back at you, I think first and foremost with this hyena here, there's two messages coming through. The first one is that they felt as though you were a lot of fun to be around, like a delight, a joy, somebody who was probably quick-witted, very funny, but also perhaps somebody who didn't necessarily express your feelings perhaps in like the most open way. Like there could have been passive aggressiveness going on, or like acting out in the hopes that the other person would understand what it is that you're feeling, or acting out in the hopes that this person would respond to you in a certain type of way. There's definitely this energy with hyena here of somebody who pretends that things are better than they actually are feeling on the inside. So there's that. But I also think with the Luna moth here, that there was also an energy of somebody, like they're remembering you as somebody who was perhaps very fast moving, very forward moving, somebody who was definitely drawn to this connection, and like there was an attraction here. But I sense like urgency with the Luna moth, and also perhaps like an impulsiveness to make choices based solely on a specific outcome desired, rather than like taking a step back and perhaps waiting it out or observing for a little while. It just seems like there was like very fast moving energy here when they're looking back at you, like a whirlwind kind of, or a roller coaster. But then with the gossip here, I think that there is both light and shadow attributes here. I think for a select few of you, there probably was an element here of you potentially having found out some sort of information that this person was kind of hiding from you, or wasn't being like withholding from you. They were withholding something from you, and I kind of get the feeling that there may have been like an element of finding out what was being withheld in a roundabout way. So there's that. There is like an element here of like potentially having been betrayed by this person. But also I think that like they're remembering you as somebody who was very much so considerate of this person's feelings, considerate of their needs, considerate of what it was that they wanted. And I don't necessarily know if this person can look back at themselves and say the same thing about themselves when it comes to you, when it comes to having whether or not they considered your feelings. It seems like this person may have been more so focused on themselves rather than on this connection in its bigger picture. So that's what I'm seeing for how they're remembering you guys. Then if we look at how it is that they're currently feeling about this separation, we have the ocean. And the ocean is definitely, I mean, like, it's a huge body of water. This to me is indicative of like emotions. And I feel like this person feels very emotional currently about the state of this connection. But also the ocean is like very tumultuous. It can change suddenly. There's a lot going on. In certain areas, it can be very calm, and in other areas, it can be a full-blown storm. And the ocean cannot be contained. It's massive. And I sense that there's an element of overwhelm that this person is feeling currently, as well as I think the overwhelm comes from having so many different emotions ranging from all different types. But I think that with forgiveness here and observer and then discovery, this is like kind of telling a story in a way where I feel like this person is using this time of separation to really reflect. And what it is that they're recognizing is that with time, so I think that for a lot of you, there's been some time and space that has gone on between the two of you. And I think that like, if there was like a really rough or intense falling out of some kind, it feels like that may have like the anger or the irritation, the hurt that like originally came with that event seems to kind of have settled down. to the point where now they can see things more clearly rather than see things through this lens of turmoil. And in that, I think that they definitely don't harbor any resentments that perhaps they did in the beginning. And I also think that there's like hope here that there's potential for them to be forgiven as well. I do think that like they're under the impression that this connection is not necessarily over in its entirety. It seems like this person feels as though there is more to come for this connection. With Unfinished Symphony, it feels like they feel like this was abruptly stopped, and it could very well have been because they themselves were the ones who abruptly stopped this connection, but it left a lot to be said. And I think that there may be more that this person would like to say, or more that this person would like to offer in terms of closure even, that perhaps they didn't necessarily offer when this separation or no contact began. And I think with Come to the Edge and Discovery, there's also this understanding, this realization that this person is currently undergoing, where they're starting to see what the importance of this connection actually meant to them. Like there could have definitely been an energy of somebody who was like running away out of overwhelm, and because of that there wasn't really any consideration for the value that this connection held within their own heart space. And I think that like they're opening up to the idea that perhaps it would be beneficial to kind of like explore the feelings that they're feeling currently. But that's what I'm seeing for this portion of the reading. So let's go ahead and move these on out. We'll get some tarot, and we're going to look into how this person is currently feeling about you. Okay, how is pile one's person currently feeling about pile one? So we have the Four of Swords, we have the Four of Cups, we have the Page of Pentacles, we have the King of Swords, we have the Three of Swords. Okay, why is the Four of Swords here? We have the Seven of Pentacles. Why is the Four of Cups here? Why is the Four of Cups here? We have the Devil. Why is the Page of Pentacles here? We have Temperance. Why is the King of Swords here? Okay, we have the Seven of Wands and the Three of Pentacles. And then why is the Three of Swords here? We have the Page of Cups. Okay, and then on the back of the deck, we have the Two of Swords. Okay, so how is this person currently feeling about you? I would say that there is still a state of overwhelm, or like of feeling as though taking a step away from this connection is probably best. But I don't necessarily see it as something that they feel as though is permanent. Like if this were, instead of the Four of Swords, if this were the Hermit and the Seven of Pentacles, I would say that this person probably like is happy to be on their own and would prefer to be on their own away from this connection for a while. But it seems like this person is really taking a step back and reflecting. Like the Four of Swords is all about meditation, recuperating from something that may have been somewhat harmful. And And if we look at it, we have the Two of Swords, which progresses to the Three of Swords, and then the Four of Swords. And like that to me is indicative of like a decision having been made that perhaps led to something that was very harmful, and now there's a need to rest in order to recover. And if you look at this like image, this is different than the Rider-Waite image, where typically you see a knight laying down and there's swords around it. Here we have a knight that looks like they're meditating, and then in the center of their chest we have a heart, and it seems like this person is actively working on healing their heart space, their heart center, healing and kind of licking their wounds. And you see it with the Seven of Pentacles. This is about patience. It's about allowing things to kind of grow in their own time. And I think that this person is recognizing that there is definitely an importance being placed or needed to be placed on working on themselves, working on their own wounds, rather than trying to fix this connection. It seems like they're taking a step back and they're appreciating the space that they have from this. I think that there is recognition on this person's end that perhaps there was an attachment of some kind that was really unhealthy. This could have been something that was like very sexually driven, like a connection that was very sexually driven. It could also be a connection that really had high highs and very low lows. Like there may have been like areas where there was disrespect in this connection in certain ways. Also, I'm sensing that perhaps like addiction or substances were heavily influenced in this connection. Like there's definitely a recognition here that like this connection in the past may not necessarily have been one that was bringing out the best in both of you. And it could even be that this person may have been more so interested in something casual, in something casual that obviously created bonds either way. There was still bonding going on. But I think that like now with the Four of Cups coming out, there's also an understanding that like that's not serving them. It's not serving either one of you to maintain this double energy, this shadowy energy. It seems like this person is no longer interested in that aspect of this connection. I feel like with the King of Swords, the Three of Pentacles, and the Seven of Wands, there is clarity. Like this person feels as though they've gained clarity, and they're recognizing that if this connection were to ever come back into union, there would need to be effort on this person's end, and there would genuinely need to be like a mutual agreement of like what needs to be worked on. There's definitely an understanding here. I don't think that this person feels confused at all about the different routes that this connection could take, or about the different decisions that this person could make, but they do feel indecisive. They feel indecisive about whether or not, about what they should do, like what the best course of action would be. And I sense that like there's definitely hurt here. Like I think that this person misses you and is hurt by what has happened, and is also has hurt themselves. I feel like if that's something that's resonating for you, that this person may have like betrayed you or been the one to like not necessarily show up in the way that you were showing up, to like not make it equal. I think that there's an element here of them recognizing that not only did they hurt you, but they hurt themselves, and there is a really strong desire here to come forward and make this right. There's a recognition here that this person owes you some sort of apology. But at the same time, I think that they're wanting to take things very slowly. I don't feel a level of urgency here at all. And it could be because this person is recognizing that like urgency and taking action simply because something feels uncomfortable may not be the best course of action in the long run. And with the Page of Pentacles here, this is very slow moving energy, but it does indicate progress. And the progress that it's pointing towards is temperance, which is about kind of healing, of even alchemizing things, changing one's perspective or feelings into something else. And I think that right now this person is, I think with the space that they are taking, they've become clearer minded of what it is that they're feeling, what their options are, and what it is that they deserve, as well as what you deserve. And at the moment, they feel very much so called to not take action. Because that, I think, would be best for everybody. It kind of seems like they know that now is not the right time. So that's what I'm seeing for that. Let's go ahead and get some channeled messages as well and see what else comes through. What does pile one's person want to say to pile one? Yep, space. I need to take a step back because I'm still trying to figure out what I want. Yes, this goes hand in hand with this Four of Swords. There's definitely an understanding here that, like, even though this person feels discomfort, feels heartbroken, feels as though they may have potentially broken your heart, they are also recognizing that making a decision simply for the sake of making one probably isn't the best course of action. We also have fantasy. I wish I could. We have, I want you close to me, but I'm not ready for a commitment. And we have, I won't stay for very long, I'm sorry. And then on the back of the deck, we have, please accept my apologies so we can move past this. So I think that this person is still, in a place of conflict within themselves. That paradoxical energy that I saw at the beginning of this reading, it feels like it's still there, but there's also an awareness of themselves now that I think has come from taking space. And with fantasy here, I think this goes hand in hand with the Devil, where there's this understanding that there's this desire here, but also it's not what's best for either one of you. And then we have, I want you close to me, but I'm not ready for a commitment. This feels very much so like that water chevrotain and the wolf. There's like conflicting energy here of somebody who feels emotionally attracted to you, but is also very much like a runner or avoidant in that way. And then with Ghost here, I won't stay for very long, I'm sorry. I kind of get the feeling that this is kind of the apology for here. So I think that, like, perhaps this person has ghosted some of you in the past, and that's maybe why this connection has come to a close. And I think that this, if that's the case, this is acknowledgement. They're acknowledging that they did this and they're apologizing. Obviously, you deserve more of an apology than this. But that's kind of like the message that's coming through here. And then we see it as the bottom of the deck energy. Please accept my apologies so we can move past this. So I think that there may also be a fear here with the Three of Swords and the Page of Cups. There also could potentially be a desire here to reach out and apologize, but also a fear that if they were, they would still be rejected. But let's go ahead and look into, actually, let's get these shadow work cards. So these shadow work cards are indicative of what this person has kind of realized, what they're currently working through when it comes to this connection. Like, what has this connection kind of woken them up to within themselves? So we have inconsiderate, act with compassion and kindness, be thoughtful and polite. It just feels better on the inside. We also have uncompromising, think about being fair and working in harmony with another person. And we have resisting change. Ask yourself why you are not wanting to change. Look at the positive sides to the changes. So I think there's definitely a realization on your person's end of their own stubbornness and their own inability to kind of be flexible in the decisions that they make, and they're recognizing that this is kind of something that is preventing them from their own happiness. Like it's stopping them from achieving what it is that they want. And you see stubbornness here again with uncompromising. And then we have inconsiderate. I think that this person is really recognizing that the way that they have treated you and perhaps others in the past is something that needs to be worked on and is something to reflect on within themselves when it comes to how they feel about themselves. But let's go ahead, last but not least, we're going to get advice too, but let's first look into what it is that your person is hoping is going to come from this connection, what they're hoping to have happen. And for that, we have fulfillment. We have number 41, decrease. We have crystal visions, and we have the coyote. The keyword is play, and the question being asked is, what energizes me? So from what I'm seeing here, especially with crystal visions, I think that this person is really hoping that with the space being taken, there's going to be a clear path set for them where they understand, and for you as well, where both of you can figure out what it is that you want. And then work from there. And I think for this person in particular, they're really hoping that with this space will come peace, like a fizzling out of any resentment or anger, perhaps on your end. Like I feel like that may have already been released on your person's end, but I think that there's hope that what has happened in the past can kind of stay in the past. So that something more fruitful can come from this connection. I do feel as though this person is hoping that this connection can kind of come back into union, but I think that they're hoping that, I don't know if this is going to be something where they're hoping for like a commitment. I think it's more so like they're hoping with this play card here, they're hoping for a reunion of some kind that works in favor for the both of you and is authentic to the both of you, rather than what it is that society deems is appropriate. But yeah, that's what I'm seeing. Let's go ahead and get you an advice card before we close this reading out. What advice is there for pile 1 when it comes to their connection? So we have communication. Wonder how that other person's feeling? Ask them. Wish they knew how you were feeling? Tell them. You've just been drafted into the communication army, where there is a strict do ask, do tell policy. Speak with kindness and gentleness and reach an understanding. If you don't, assumption will just make asses of everyone, including the person who came up with that aphorism. So I think that this is, like, if this is a no contact situation where perhaps you've been blocked or anything like that, obviously, or if this person has asked you to like give them space, to leave them alone, I don't necessarily feel as though this card is indicative of you needing to continually contact them. I think what this is really indicative of is if this person is to come forward in your life again and like try to initiate anything, it's really important, especially if it resonated for you showing up in that hyena energy of like not necessarily speaking clearly about how you're feeling, but rather like being passive aggressive or hoping that the other person understands what it is you're feeling by your behavior. There's definitely a message here to like really be forthright and open and clear in what it is that you're wishing for this person to understand. And I think that also if this connection does not come back into union, this is still a very important lesson in terms of asking for what it is that you want and expressing what it is that you need in a clear and healthy way. Let's see what else comes through. What advice is there for pile 1? So we also have impermanence. Life is always changing, and I drift easily through those changes, good and bad. As I drift through hard times, I can take comfort in knowing that I will leave them behind. As I drift away from good times, I can take comfort in knowing that more will come my way. Impermanence is an equal opportunity non-entity. So I think that this is definitely indicative of like I mean, impermanence is something that can feel a little scary, but also it can feel a little hopeful depending on the circumstances in which you find yourself. But I think that there's definitely hope either way, in knowing that there are always good times on their way. But yeah, that's what I'm seeing for you guys, pile 1. Thank you so much for watching. I still have my Amazon wish list up. You can purchase a deck for the channel in exchange for a 1-question reading. All you have to do is click on the link, put one of the items in your shopping cart, and then select the address that says Ouroboros Tarot. And you can put your questions in it. I also have my email in the information of that wish list as well. So if you need to contact me, you can contact me that way. And I also have other readings, more in-depth readings up in my Etsy shop. So please feel free to check those out as well. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I hope that I will have the opportunity to read for you in another video soon. Bye. Hi, pile 2. So today's pick a card reading is a no contact energy check-in reading. And these first oracles here are going to be indicative of how this person is looking back on themselves and remembering themselves. And for that, we have Liberator. The light attributes are freeing yourself and others from outmoded beliefs, releasing negative thought patterns, and the shadow attributes are imposing your own tyranny over those you claim to liberate, ignoring legitimate constraints. We have the Nightingale. We also have the Sardine, and the key word is betray. And we have the Gorilla, and the key word is control. Then these cards here are indicative of how this person is currently feeling about this no contact or separation. And for that, we have the Lover, we have the Vision, we have Gossip, and we have Round and Round. And then in terms of, and we have Perfection. Yes, that's it. Okay. And then in terms of how they are remembering you or looking back at you, we have the Lemur, and the key word is warmth. We also have the Raccoon, and we have the Exorcist. The light attribute is freeing yourself and others of destructive impulses, and the shadow attribute is fear of facing your own demons. Okay, and then the cards that are left are going to be for later on. So we will go ahead and put those to the side. Okay, so I'm getting 2 different messages, but one is coming through more strongly, so I'm going to start with that one. And it comes from how it is that this person is remembering themselves. I feel like for the majority of you, this person is looking back at themselves and they're realizing that perhaps they had a lot of deep-seated fears when it comes to betrayal. I kind of feel like this person may have had some serious trust issues in this connection for whatever reason. It could have been because you genuinely did provide them a reason to not trust you, but it also could be because of past wounds that had nothing to do with you. But I feel as though this person is looking back at themselves and is realizing that they had a serious need to control in order to try to prevent betrayal, or in order to try to prevent them from being harmed in some sort of way. And I think that they're seeing themselves in the Liberator as the shadow attributes of imposing their own tyranny over those you claim to liberate, ignoring legitimate constraints. I think that they're honestly looking at themselves, looking back, reflecting, and seeing that perhaps their expectations of you and the decisions you made, the way they wanted you to show up, were perhaps way too demanding, or were not understandable. Like, the expectations that they set were almost designed to create failure. Like it would be impossible for anyone to continuously show up in a perfect way. Is kind of what I'm sensing. if that's not the case, I feel like this person may have been somebody who genuinely did betray you and really tried to manipulate and cover this up. And they tried to manipulate and cover this up by treating you as if you were the one who was betraying them. And then with the nightingale here, either way, no matter which way you spin it, with the nightingale here, I sense that like a lot of things were left unsaid. Like this person, once this ending came, or once they, even before the ending came, even before this change happened in your connection, I feel like they're looking back at themselves and realizing that they left a lot unsaid. Like there could have been opportunities for them to explain themselves. There could have been opportunities for them to express what it is that they need or what it is that they were feeling, and they didn't take those opportunities. So that's what I'm seeing for how they're remembering them. When I look over here at how they're remembering you, I feel like for some of you with this exorcist here, for a lot of you, that you were the one who eventually put your foot down and ended this connection. But I also think that they're remembering you as somebody who really held up a mirror to them and showed them how unfair they were being in certain ways. I think that like they definitely learned a lot from this connection. Whether or not they've admitted that is like a totally different story. But I think that you really provided them the insight they needed to see what demons they themselves were facing, rather than projecting their own demons onto other people. I also think with the raccoon here that there could have been an element here of you being a very artistic person, very musical perhaps. But I do think it's interesting. I'm looking at these two images of the lemur and the raccoon, and both of these animals are black and white. So there could have been like black and white thinking here, where they are remembering you as somebody who kind of had a difficult time seeing a middle ground, or seeing things in shades of gray. So that could be something that's coming through for a select few of you. But I also feel like with this raccoon here, there was definite, for some of you, there could have been an element here of not necessarily realizing your own worth, not necessarily realizing that like you, for a while, realizing that like you could have done better than this person. And keep in mind that this is from their perspective. But yeah, there is definitely a level of like insecurity here that I think that this person was picking up on. But also with the lemur here, we have the keyword warmth. Like I think that they are looking back at you and at this connection, and they're kind of realizing how good they had it, or how much they were cared for by you, how much effort you put into this connection, stuff like that. I'm gonna sneeze. I'm trying not to. Please don't sneeze. Whew. Okay, I think it went away. But that's what I'm seeing for this portion. So let's go ahead and look into how it is that they are currently feeling about this separation. And what I'm seeing is that like it feels like this person still has trust issues, is one thing that I would say with with the gossip here. It feels like they are definitely still suspicious in certain ways. It's either, so like depending on how it resonated for you, it's either they still have trust issues, or there's concern here that you may find out more information that like perhaps has still been withheld from you. So it'll depend on that. I also think that there may be an element here of like keeping tabs on you. But I think that this person has now put this connection on some sort of like they're looking back with rose-colored glasses, where they may not necessarily be looking back at things entirely accurately, like with perfection here. There is an element of them having realized what they lost, like them having had a wake-up call or a perspective shift and realizing that this connection is in fact everything it is that they want. But I think that it might be difficult for them to know whether or not this is them seeing things clearly and this is the truth, or if this perhaps is like attachment wounds being triggered. And the reason I say that is because we have round and round here. I think that this person is thinking about this and what has happened between you and what they could have done differently over and over and over again. And the more they kind of tune in and overthink this, the more clouded their judgment becomes. And I think that this is something that they may be aware of, but they do know that like there was something special about this connection, and they're looking back now with the vision here. I think that they're recognizing that there's something about this connection that they want. Like I think that they are envisioning ways in which they can bring this connection back into union, because they're realizing that there's something very special about this. I think that there's definitely not a whole lot of like acceptance for what is currently. It seems like there's some denial going on, and it could be because there genuinely is an opportunity for this to come back into union, or it could be because they're thinking over and over and over again about this and it's kind of warping their judgment. It'll resonate differently for all of you, but that's what I'm seeing for this first portion. So let's go ahead and now get into what it is that they're currently feeling about you. Okay. We'll do one more shuffle. How is pile 2's person currently feeling about pile 2? What are their current feelings towards pile 2? Okay. So we have Judgment. We also have the Two of Wands, the Ten of Cups, and the Hierophant. Okay, I'm just gonna take this one for right now, because with the Knight of Swords, I get a pretty clear message. But now let's go ahead and clarify these. Why is Judgment here? Why is Judgment here? Okay, so we have the Five of Pentacles. Why is the Two of Wands here? We have the Ten of Pentacles. Why is the Ten of Cups here? Oh goodness, okay. So I'm gonna take them all. So we have the King of Cups, the Four of Cups, and the Lovers. Why is the Hierophant here? We have the Ace of Cups. Why is the Emperor here? Okay, oh goodness. So we have the Four of Wands and the Star. Okay, and then on the back of the deck we have the Empress. Okay. So, how is this person currently feeling about you? I think that they definitely feel the separation very intensely. There's been a wake-up call of some kind, and they almost feel rejected. And it could be because they themselves put themselves in a place where they would be rejected. Like they were the ones who ended this, or perhaps it was you who ended it. And I think that this ending, this separation, has been a wake-up call for them. And I think that there is a realization here with the Emperor, the Four of Wands, the Star, as well as the Empress, that the two of you are very compatible. I think that they might be under the impression that the two of you are meant to be. And I see it with like the Emperor, the Four of Wands, and the Star, because the Four of Wands is definitely a card about celebration, homecomings, also weddings, and the Hierophant can be indicative of marriage too. So like I feel like this person might be having a wake-up call of some kind in which they are recognizing that perhaps either there was commitment or there was the ability to trust you, And I think that there might be a desire to take action on this and rebuild this. Like, there's definitely longing here, I would say. There's longing for this to come back into union. There's longing to have something stable with you. There's longing for an opportunity for an emotional rebirth of some kind. I think that this person understands what it is, or is under the impression, at least, that they understand what it is that it will take in order for this to have the best chance possible for it to be something that is different than what has happened in the past. But I do feel like there is a little bit of a fear here of rejection with the Four of Cups. I mean, we have the Ten of Cups, the King of Cups, and the Lovers. Like, this person seems to have their heart space open to you and sees a future with you still. Definitely, again, there's like rose-colored glasses. Like, I don't necessarily know if they're looking at this realistically. And it could be that, like, there's a lot of projection here. Like, how I was mentioning the raccoon and the lemur seem like there's black and white thinking going on. How they're remembering you. And it could be that they're not acknowledging their own black and white thinking. Where, like, in the past, perhaps they didn't trust you. And now it seems like they just want to go all in. Like, it's like very extreme. Or in the past they betrayed you, and now suddenly they're like, no, I can commit. There's definitely like extremes that I'm seeing. So there could be an element of that here. But I think that, like, they're seeing all of this and they're like daydreaming about it, and they're hoping for this, but at the same time they don't know how they'll be received. But again, like with the Two of Wands and the Ten of Pentacles, this is indicative of somebody wanting to make a decision to come forward and build this legacy with you, is what I would say. This person seems to feel as though this connection deserves a second chance. But let's go ahead and get into channeled messages and see what comes through for you guys. What channeled messages? What does pile two's person want to say? I love you. What does pile two's person want to say to pile two? Okay, so we have the damage has already been done and I don't know how to pick up the pieces. We have thinking about you makes me emotional and I want to open up to you about how I'm feeling. And we have, this isn't about you, I'm working through a personal issue. And I think that that goes hand in hand with what I was kind of seeing, like, especially if this person has trust issues. I think that this may be acknowledgement that perhaps how they've treated you really was undeserving in terms of like them not having really acknowledged or addressed their own internal issues. And then on the back of the deck, we have foolish. I feel like an idiot for the choices I've made. I wasn't thinking clearly at the time. So yeah, definitely, there's definitely a desire. But let's also look at the shadow work cards. So these are indicative of what it is that they're kind of waking up to in terms of what they should be working on within themselves, what it is that this connection has kind of shown them about themselves. So we have envy. Remind yourself that no one has it all. It's okay to celebrate others' successes. You truly are good enough. We have greed. You are too attached to things in an excessive way. Nothing good comes of it. And we have prejudice. What if you were categorized into a group and given attributes that were false without truly knowing who you are? So these all go hand in hand again with like this recognition within them that perhaps they are projecting. With prejudice here, I feel like as though there may have been judgments that have been made about you, about love in general, perhaps, that are predetermined and perhaps unfair, like unfairly placed. I also think with envy and greed here that there may be a lot of insecurity that this person is recognizing within themselves. And this could be an insecurity within them where they don't feel good enough and therefore they push people away. Or it could be an insecurity where they don't feel good enough. So whenever opportunities come to them, they take them out of like a fear of nothing else coming. And there's not necessarily thought or intention put into it. But these are the things that they're kind of becoming aware of because of this connection. And then when it comes to what they're hoping for this connection, we have cosmic journey, we have thriving, we have deer mouse. The key word is nest, and the question being asked is, what would more tenderness help? And we have shock. So I think like this person is really hoping, with shock here, is really hoping that the damage that has been done to this connection is kind of coming to an end, like almost like an earthquake. Like the damage is happening when the earthquake is happening, but then eventually there's going to be a moment of calmness where there is no more damage, and then things can kind of settle. There can be a moment of peace, there can be a moment of clarity, and then there's the opportunity to pick up the pieces and rebuild. So I think that there's definitely a desire here for things to kind of like settle and for clarity to come for this connection. And I see it with cosmic journey as well. There's a desire here to move things forward, and to mend what has been broken in order for this connection to grow. But yeah, let's go ahead and get you guys advice before we close out this reading. Well, that was a horrible shuffle. Okay, what advice is there for pile 2 when it comes to their connection with this person? Forgiveness. Congratulations, you've been given one of the most powerful superpowers there is, forgiveness. Imagine that you've been bitten by a radioactive forgiver. The point is, you suddenly have the ability to forgive people for their flaws, their bad days, their unkind moments, and their mistakes. And the best thing about forgiveness is that you can apply it to yourself too. Have fun wielding your new power, but remember, with great forgiveness comes great inner peace. Okay. What advice is there for pile 2 when it comes to this connection? Communication. Wonder how that other person is feeling? Ask him. Wish they knew how you were feeling? Tell him. You've just been drafted into the communication army, where there is a strict do ask, do tell policy. Speak with kindness and gentleness and reach an understanding. If you don't, assumption will just make asses of everyone, including the person who came up with that aphorism. So this card came up for pile 1 as well. But I think it's like, I'm kind of interpreting it differently. Like, I think that this is encouragement to really perhaps model or even create boundaries for yourself when it comes to communication with this person. Like, if this person is not communicating effectively, to not necessarily entertain unhealthy modes of communication. But also with forgiveness here, I think that there is, obviously forgiveness is something that's very intimate and very personal, and it's very much so a choice and your right to choose whether or not you want that. But I think that this is encouragement. If this is a connection that you are wanting to move forward in, it's important to kind of explore both of these ideas. But that's what I'm seeing for you guys today, pile 2. Thank you so much for watching. I still have my Amazon wish list up. You can purchase a deck for the channel in exchange for a 1-question video recorded reading. You just have to put the item of your choice in the cart and then select the address that's been pre-written for you for Ouroboros Tarot. My email is in the information of the Amazon wish list, so you can contact me if you need to before your reading. I also have readings on Etsy that are more in-depth, so feel free to check those out as well. But thank you so much for giving me this chance to read for you today, pile 2, and I hope that I will have the chance to read for you in another video soon. Bye! Hello, pile 3. So today's pick a card reading is a no contact energy check-in reading, and we're going to be looking into the energy going on between you and the person that's on your mind that you're currently in no contact with. And these first oracles here are indicative of how your person is currently remembering themselves, how they're looking back on themselves and how they showed up in your connection. And for that, we have Tortoise. The key word is longevity. We also have the Spider. We have the Alchemist. The light attribute is transformation of base motives and goals into golden wisdom. And the shadow attribute is misuse of the power and knowledge that comes through spiritual practice. And we have Lover. The light attributes are a great passion and devotion, unbridled appreciation of someone or something. And the shadow attributes are obsessive passion that harms others, self-destructive devotion. And then in terms of how they're feeling about this separation, we have the Prayer. We also have complacency, number 38, to be fair, and passion. When it comes to how they are currently remembering you, we have Trishu, and the key word is addiction. We also have Messiah. The light attribute is serving humanity with humility, and the shadow attribute is exaggerated belief that you are the only means through which a cause can succeed. And we have the Black Egg. And then these cards here we're going to look into later on in the reading, so we'll go ahead and put those to the side. Okay, so I feel like this is a connection that may not have had like some sort of huge falling out. Like I don't see betrayal here. I don't see like a huge argument here. I feel like this is a connection that has kind of come to a close based on both of your own evolutions. Like perhaps this connection was one that the two of you outgrew, or there was recognition on one of your ends that like this connection was no longer an expansive one. But from your person's perspective, it doesn't necessarily feel like they think that they wronged you or like ripped the rug out from under you, nor does it seem to me like they're viewing you as somebody who did that to them. But I will say that I do see codependency on both sides of this. Like I think that there is a recognition on this person's end that the two of you were very dependent on one another, and perhaps this was a connection that was somewhat scary to allow to come to a close simply because there was such a dependency or an attachment on one another. And that's not necessarily to say that there wasn't love here. It just seems like perhaps the most loving thing that the two of you could have done for one another in that time frame was to let one another go. But yeah, I'm seeing that like with the Trishu as well as with the Lover, I feel as though this is indicative of like two people who are very much so like dependent on one another. Perhaps like this connection was one that kind of like was a band-aid for covering up things that needed to be addressed, perhaps. Like, and that's a very specific example, and it's just an example. But I hope that like I'm making sense, like giving examples that are making sense to what I'm trying to convey. But I think they're looking back at you as somebody who, with the Messiah here, was somebody who definitely guided them in a lot of ways, who definitely like perhaps even came in and they felt saved by you in certain ways. Like perhaps you helped ground this person at a certain point in their life or help them see things from a different perspective. They're definitely seeing you as somebody beautiful and somebody very wise, especially with this Black Egg here. I think they see you as somebody who's very evolved, somebody who definitely like spoke their truth, who was trying to be as authentic as they possibly could be, for their own selves, like for your own happiness. You were trying very hard to be authentic. There's nothing here indicating that they're looking back with like resentment or judgment on you. And then I think with how they're looking back at them, I think they're looking back at themselves as somebody who perhaps recognized for a while that they needed to make some changes, but it was difficult for them. For whatever reason, it was difficult for them to kind of make the changes that they needed to. I could see that it was potentially them who decided to end this connection. But like I get the feeling that they don't feel as though them having ended this connection was suddenly them saying, or suddenly them feeling as though they don't love you. Like, I think that they may have been the ones who transformed this connection based on love itself into something that would change the direction of both of your lives to something in a positive direction. This person could have been like artistic as well, somebody who really wanted to take charge of their own life. But yeah, that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing two people who really wanted the best for themselves as well as for the other people. And an acknowledgement that there was codependency or a fear of letting go, even though it was time. When it comes to how they are currently feeling about this separation, I feel as though they feel conflicted. And they feel conflicted because there's a lot of longing here still. There's a lot of care and concern here for you, a lot of passion, attraction here for you. But at the same time, there's recognition that like it would be unfair of them to act on these feelings when there's also other feelings indicative of needing to let this go. And I think that like right now they're really at odds with themselves because there is such care and concern and love here and longing here, but at the same time they don't necessarily want to make decisions that would be unfair to them and their future, as well as unfair to you and your heart. So that's what I'm seeing for that. So let's go ahead and look into how they're currently feeling about you and see what comes through. Okay. How is pile 3's person currently feeling about pile 3? Okay, so we have temperance. What are the current feelings for pile 3? We have strength. We have the Hierophant. We have the 4 of Swords and the King of Pentacles. Okay. Why is temperance here? We have the Knight of Pentacles. Why is strength here? We have the 3 of Swords. Why is the Hierophant here? We have Judgment. Why is the 4 of Swords here? We have the Lovers. Why is the King of Pentacles here? Okay, so we have the 5 of Swords and the 8 of Pentacles. And then on the back of the deck, we have the 2 of Swords. Okay, so how is this person currently feeling about you? I mean, I think that they are at odds with themselves. I think that they're recognizing that, like, okay, so with the 3 of Swords here, I would say that they feel hurt, they feel sad, they're brokenhearted, they miss you. Those are all things that I would say are something that's very heavy on their heart right now. There's a lot of pain. But at the same time, with strength here, it feels like what I'm seeing in this image is, like, what I'm kind of interpreting this as is this lion, is this heartbreak, it's this discomfort, it feels scary. And then here they are, like their highest self is like holding on to this pain. And it looks like the lion, their heartbreak, is wanting to demand them to like stop this, to appease, like to find peace, to do whatever it takes to stop the hurt. And they're embracing this pain, they're embracing this lion, but they're not allowing the lion to manipulate them, or not allowing the lion to take charge. And what this is telling me is that they feel a great deal of heartbreak and everything within them is wanting to alleviate this by like communicating with you, by perhaps falling back into old patterns, but their highest self is telling them that that is not what's best for either one of you. And so they're at odds with themselves, and what they're recognizing is what they need to do is heal themselves. Like what they're recognizing is that they can't put this on you to like make the pain go away. They need to work on it themselves. And it's something that like is requiring a lot of patience within them. It's something that's requiring a lot of diligence and commitment, but they're committed to this. They're committed to their own healing right now. And I think they're also committed to doing the right thing. With the Hierophant and Judgment here, they're very much so committed to staying on the path that they have chosen for themselves. And that means taking a step back from this connection in a romantic way. I think one thing that's coming through, especially with this Five of Swords here, let me just take a look at this real fast. I think that there's a calling within this person to maintain a sense of being grounded, a sense of stability within themselves, and a sense of maintaining a focus on what goal it is that they want to achieve. And they're recognizing that if they kind of step off of this path and kind of let go of or fall into their feelings of impatience, what will end up happening is a situation in where it's a lose-lose for everybody. And so at the moment, they're definitely making an action. Like there's a choice here that they're choosing not to bring you into this for the time being. With the Two of Swords here, there's definitely a recognition on this person's end that taking an action toward you would not benefit you or them. It would lead to more pain in the long run. But that's what I'm seeing with that. Let's go ahead and get you guys some oracles, or not some oracles, some channeled messages. Let's see what comes through. Okay. This isn't about you. I'm working through a personal issue. So again, that goes hand in hand with like what I was saying about them recognizing that you cannot be placed as the responsible person to fixing whatever's going on with them. There's a recognition here that they need to work on themselves. And while you might be willing, depending on the situation, while you might be willing to come along on this journey, I think that they're recognizing that that wouldn't be fair. What is it that pile 3's person wants to say? We have within a year or more. We have, I know that I want you in my future. I am working on making the proper plans. What does pile 3's person want to say to pile 3? I need you. Yeah, there's that. And the key word is codependency. And then we have mountain. Someone or something is standing in between us right now. And then on the back of the deck, we have sorry. Please accept my apologies so we can move past this. So one thing that I'm seeing with the Lovers and the Four of Swords is definitely that like this person feels hopeful. I would say that there is an there could be an opportunity in the future to kind of rekindle things in a romantic way. And I see it with this planning and within a year or more. But they definitely don't feel as though right now is the right time for this connection. But let's also go ahead and look into these shadow work cards. These cards here are indicative of what this person is currently realizing about themselves or acknowledging needs more nurturance within themselves due to this connection. Like, what is it that this connection is teaching them? So we have shame. You are not flawed. You are so worthy of love and belonging. Forgive yourself for not giving yourself enough self-love. We also have victim mentality. The universe wants what's best for you, not the worst. Change your perspective. And we have self-absorbed. Seek to feel what others are feeling. Express empathy to others to overcome this. I think that this person might honestly be putting a lot of guilt and blame on themselves for whatever reason. And it could very well be like well warranted, but it also could be that this person needs to give themselves a little bit more compassion because things happen, and sometimes they're out of our control, and what matters is how we choose to approach those things rather than blaming ourselves for the things that have happened that were out of our control, if that makes sense. But take those how they resonate for you and your person most specifically. And then we're almost finished. These cards here are indicative of what this person is hoping to have happen for this connection, what they're hoping for in this connection. And for that we have Land of Oz, we have Moon, we have number 40, Deliverance, and we have Solitude. So I would definitely say that like this within a year or more card really is ringing true here. I think that this person, the greatest thing that this person desires for the time being is to be able to face their fears. And I think that one fear in particular that's coming through time and time again is the fear of perhaps being alone, or the fear of letting this connection go and standing in the unknown. And the moon here is about releasing as well. It's about introspection and releasing, letting things go. And then we also have solitude. And if we look at this image, we have an image of a moon again. And I think that this person is really hoping that they have the courage that it takes to actually face whatever fears they're going through so that they can be alone for a while. And they're hoping with deliverance that the pain that they're feeling and the pain that you're feeling is not going to last for a very long time. They're hoping for peace to come from the decision that they've made. So I would say that this person, even though they're at conflict with themselves currently, and even though they have a hope for the future, there is a feeling of acceptance for the current circumstances and a desire to follow through with it for the time being. But that's what I'm seeing for you guys, pile 3. Let's go ahead and get you guys some advice before we close this reading out. What advice is there for pile 3 when it comes to their connection with this person? What advice is there? Okay, so we have peacefulness. I have a peaceful, tranquil, and untroubled heart. This is where I choose to spend my time. I can bring guests, but any person, thought, or event that brings drama or chaos is not invited. My heart is a special property, and I'm going to keep it that way so we can all keep enjoying it and I can get my security deposit back. What advice is there for pile 3 when it comes to their connection? And we have patience. Congratulations, you've been granted more patience. You may start using it right away or much, much later. Waiting a long time is the sort of option now afforded to you by greater patience. Can you believe it? Look at this. You're still reading and you haven't started getting annoyed yet. Imagine how this patience will transform your life. Imagine how easy it will be to go to the post office. So I think that they're like, one thing that's like coming through very clearly, like the message that I'm getting from this is that it's going to take a very long time for this person to come out of whatever it is that they're going through. And I think that this patience card is really a calling to acknowledge or accept that truth, rather than a calling to wait for this person for however long it takes for them to be ready for a connection. And I feel like your guides are redirecting you from accepting this to asking yourself what it is that's going to bring you peace. But of course, take these how they resonate for you first and foremost. But that's what I'm seeing for you guys today, pile 3. Thank you so much for watching. I still have my Amazon wish list up, so if you'd like to get a 1-question video recorded reading in exchange for purchasing a deck, which is cheaper than purchasing a 1-question reading in my Etsy shop, please feel free to check that out. All you have to do is put an item of your choice off of the wish list into your cart and select the entered address for Ouroboros Tarot, and it'll be sent out. So feel free to check that out. I also have other readings in my Etsy shop that are more in-depth if that is something that you're curious about. But thank you for watching, and if you haven't already, please subscribe, and I hope that I will have the chance to read for you in another video soon. Bye!